I raised serious concerns regarding the so-called activation programme JobPath. The company which has the contract to run JobPath is a company called CTEC. In the UK, the same company, CTEC, has been the subject of a fraud investigation following its actions whilst contracted to the UK Department of Work and Pensions. The case I raised yesterday referred to a father of two who had some casual employment which was being supplemented by a payment from the Department of Social Protection. In order to keep that payment, he was obliged to participate in the JobPath scheme. That despite the fact that the nature of his casual work made him an unsuitable candidate, and that was acknowledged by all sides at the time. As a result of the JobPath obligations, he actually lost the bit of casual work, and he became fully reliant on a social protection payment, which is obviously the opposite of what you're trying to achieve. He claims he was repeatedly asked to sign documents verifying attendance at sessions he had not in fact attended, and threatened with his payment being cut off if he refused to sign. He was refused a training course of his choosing and instead given one he had no interest in, but with the promise that there would be a job at the end of it. There was no job at the end of it. He was prohibited from accepting any other external offers of employment during the training time and threatened with sanctions if he accepted work outside of the JobPath scenario. Eventually, he couldn't refuse work any longer and he took a job. And it was at that point that CTEC really showed their teeth. He and his new employer became absolutely pestered by CTEC to fill in forms fraudulently stating that JobPath had actually secured the employment for him, which it hadn't. When he refused, he was cajoled, he was shouted at, he was threatened, he was harassed. The same happened to his employer, so much so that eventually the employer signed the forms. This man came to me because he felt that he had to highlight what appears to be, to all intents and purposes, a systematic fraud occurring under the auspices of a government department. In the UK, CTEC were accused of artificially inflating the numbers of jobs it claimed it was finding people. It appears not much has changed. So Taoiseach, I want to ask you, was the department aware of the very serious issues in the UK and the investigation of the UK Public Accounts Committee regarding the issues with CTEC before the JobPath contract was awarded? What due diligence was involved? If I look at old PQ replies from Joan Burton when she was Minister, one of the points she made was there was the potential for inflating figures. It has been taken into consideration when designing JobPath. So does this comment suggest that there was an acceptance by the department that fraudulent practices were unavoidable? And can I finally ask you, given that your former role in the Department of Social Protection, are you aware of similar complaints and concerns that were raised in relation to JobPath or indeed Turas Nua? If so, what has been done about it?
Taoiseach. Thanks very much. I think this perhaps would be a question better asked to the Minister for Social Protection, who'd be more across and more up to date these details than I would be, but I'll try and answer as best I can. First of all, there are two companies that have contracts under JobPath. One is CTEC, the other is Turas Nua. I'm not sure what the UK company you refer to is. Perhaps it's a company that's part of CTEC or part of the conglomeration or whatever the term is that forms CTEC, but it wouldn't actually be CTEC itself. It would be a different legal entity as far as I understand, or as far as I recall. So far, JobPath has been a very successful programme, originally introduced by Minister Humphreys and Minister Burton, and it now continues. We see that in the fact that unemployment is now at 6.1%, but particularly that long-term unemployment, which other countries have struggled to get down, is down around 3% now, and that's in large part due to the intensive one-to-one work that the JobPath companies do with people. I can't really comment on an individual case, even if I had the details, which I don't. There would of course be issues of confidentiality and privacy. What I can say is that there is a quarterly survey done of client satisfaction with CTEC and Turas Nua, and the vast majority of individuals who interact with CTEC and Turas Nua, the JobPath companies, report very high satisfaction levels. When you're dealing with hundreds of thousands of clients, you will always have a number who have a bad experience for one reason or another, and we shouldn't base any policy based on individual case. You have to take them all in the round. There is a complaints mechanism whereby you can complain to the company itself. If you're not satisfied with how that complaint is dealt with, you can then complain to the department. And I assume that has happened in this case, but again, because it's an individual case, I don't know the details. In terms of payment, I think the Deputy may misunderstand the contract. The way the contract works is that the JobPath companies receive an initial registration fee when somebody is referred to them, but they then only get paid if somebody gets a full-time job that they hold for more than 13 weeks. It's not that CTEC or Turas Nua has to actually find that job for them. They may do, but they don't have to. The key test for payment is the person actually getting a job for themselves, perhaps with the help of CTEC or Turas Nua, and holding on to that.
Deputy Murphy.
Just two things, Taoiseach. Since I raised this, I've had a range of different people coming forward with very similar scenarios. There's a complaint gone into the Public Accounts Committee here by way of letter. I just discovered this morning it'll be in the correspondence, making the same complaints. I'm hearing from people that there's no referrals happening. That it appears that with Turas Nua, that it's just about keeping people on the books. It appears. I'm not prepared to dismiss complaints that are made to me by members of the public who are actually, at the end of the day, the end users of this. And when they come with convincing stories of their treatment, I think the department has an obligation to follow up on this because there appears to be too many of them to ignore it, given even a cursory glance at some of the things that are on the internet.
Taoiseach.
I've absolutely no doubt that there are individuals who have bad experiences with these companies. And I've absolutely no doubt that very many of these complaints are genuine, and complaints are welcome. Complaints should be made. There is a system by which people can make complaints initially to the companies, and if not, to the department after that. It's a couple of months I've been in the Department of Social Protection, but if I recall correctly, out of 200,000 or 300,000 referrals, there were maybe about 100 or 200 complaints, so you're talking in the 0.1% category. But complaints should, of course, be taken seriously. They should be made, they should be welcomed, and complaints are often a very good way to improve services, and that applies to public services as well, whether it's intro, our health services, our education system. But I don't think the fact that there are complaints should be the basis for bringing down a whole programme or a whole service.
Thank you very much, Taoiseach. That